What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we'll be continuing on with our SwiftUI tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at TabView in SwiftUI. Now, what is a TabView? Well, a TabView is a kind of navigation view. It's not a navigation view like the actual view itself, but it's a view that's used for navigation in your app that allows you to have tabs, whether it be up at the top of your window on macOS, pages on watchOS, or tabs along the bottom on iPadOS and on iOS. Now, in iOS 18, particularly in iPadOS 18, the look of the tabs do change based on a few factors, and we'll talk a little bit about those as we go forward in the next few videos. But for now, we're going to just cover how exactly it is that we can create a basic tab view in SwiftUI. There are two ways to do this. We can do this with the tabItem modifier when we put our different screens or views that we want to have tabs for in our user interface inside of a tab view. However, there is also a way where we can have a tab, a view called tab, and do it that way instead of using a modifier. Now, the view called tab is a new view. It's currently, as of this recording, in beta, but when macOS 15, iOS 18, iPadOS 18, watchOS 11, and visionOS 2 come out, then you can use this in your actual real-world apps for the App Store. Okay, so this is new for those versions, that particular option. So we'll cover both of them. Let's go into Xcode. And I have a couple screens ready. And those are for listing all the contacts, and then the other one is for listing all of the favorited contacts. All right? So inside of the body of my content view, I'm going to have a tab view. And we're going to have a closure. You could add in a selection where we can select a specific tab and then store that in state. But we're not going to do that here because we want to have the most basic kind of tab view possible. We will take a look at that here after. We'll take a look at that in this video too, but for now we're not going to use it. Now, inside of tab view, we're going to put the two screens that we want inside of it. So we'll say all contacts screen, and we'll pass it contacts like that. And then we have favorite contacts screen, and again we pass it contacts. Alright, cool. And my apologies, I am for the yawning today. Alright, now on these views, we're going to apply the tabItem modifier. So dot tabItem, and the tabItem modifier's content closure will take it'll take in whatever view you want to use as the label for your tab. In this case, we'll use a symbol and a title. You could have it be just a symbol, but if you do it that way, keep in mind that you should, without exception, have an accessibility label so assistive technology users know what that tab is for. All right, so we'll say label all contacts with a system image of person. All right. Pretty simple. Next, we'll have for our favorite contacts screen. We will say tabItem, and inside of our tabItem modifier closure, we'll have a label and we'll say favorites and have a system image of star, like that. All right. And now we can go ahead and run our code. And so here it is on macOS. You can see along the top of our window we have our two tabs. They're inside of the toolbar, so they don't like block off any of the content within the view itself. The first tab is selected by default, so we get all of the contacts. And you can see that some of them are favorited as indicated by a yellow star. Others aren't. And then here's our favorites list. So they're all favorited. But if we were to run this on, say, iOS, we'll run it on the 15 Pro Max. All right, there we go. Now let's let it do its thing here. It's currently loading everything. All right. So here it is in our simulator. I'm going to go ahead and change the appearance to dark mode. That is if it'll work. Okay, yep, it works. There we go. All right, and so there is our so there's our list in our tab view. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the two tabs where all contacts is selected. And then you can tap on favorites and see the favorites. It looks much the same on iPad. And I'll let you take a look at that, but that is how we can create our tab view with the tabItem modifier. But we're not quite done. So what we'll do here is we'll get rid of our tabs here. And now let's use the new tab view inside of our tab view to create our different tabs. So we'll say tab okay, so Xcode is being uncooperative today. We'll say tab okay, so that's okay. What we'll do instead is we'll just bring up Safari here. And we'll take a look at the documentation here, because maybe you might need to actually reference the documentation. So let's go ahead, bring it up here. Tab Apple developer documentation, like that. All right, so here we go with our tab. You can see that it is in beta. And under availability, we can see iOS 18 and above, iPad OS 18 plus, Mac Catalyst 18.0 plus, Mac OS 15.0 plus, tvOS 18 plus, and Vision OS 2.0 plus, as well as watchOS 11 plus. All right. And what we want to find is creating a tab. So we can create a tab just with a content, just with the content in a closure, and that is pretty much like, hey, what screen should this tab navigate to? Now, we can have one with a value and a content closure. The value is used for selection, so you don't have to use a tag modifier to determine what value should be stored in the selection state. Value would be used there for that. We'll take a look at this initializer later with the role. I have a video planned to show you how we can use this to create a specific a tab with a specific role. And the one we're looking for let's see, we want the one. Okay, we want the one with the content and label. So we're gonna, so we want, let's see, where is it? Yeah, so we'll have the one with the content and the label. So inside of Xcode, we'll say tab and open that up. We'll have all contact screen, pass it some contacts like that. And then we'll have a label for our tab where we can then say label all contacts with a system image of person. And the same thing applies for the other tab. So we'll have a tab with a content closure, and this will be favorite contact screen, where we pass it contacts like that. And then we'll have a label, where we'll have a label view, where it will be favorites, and have a system image. And this system image is going to be star, just like that. All right. So now let's go ahead and run this. We get a successful build, and the simulator is going to launch. All right. Let's see. All right. So here's our app on the iPhone again, and we can see the tabs down there at the bottom with our label, our image, and all of that. So everything is working fine now. This is precisely what we want. Now, of course, I'm going to go up to the toolbar, and I'll show you this on the Mac so you know that it does work. So let's run this on the Mac. And here we are again. We have favorites, all contacts, and all of that. All that good stuff. Now, you might be wondering, well, wait a second. There's no image for our tabs on macOS, and that's true, because macOS doesn't and hasn't supported having images in your tab views from the very start. That is simply not in its design language, so it excludes images for that. But it does have those images on iPhone and iPad, as well as on visionOS. It doesn't have them on watchOS either, because remember, tab views are pages on watchOS. They're not like tabs that you can tap on or click on. All right. So those are the two ways of creating a tab view on the most basic fundamental level. But what if I want to keep some state for which tab is selected, because maybe I need to pass that data around somewhere for whatever reason? Well, we can do this. Let's say I'm going to go into my content view. All right. So what we'll do is we'll have an @state private var selection. We'll say it's going to be an int. We'll set it equal to 0 here. Now, we can have, instead of just have a tab with a closure, inside of our tab view, we can have a selection, which you can see it has to be a binding to some kind of hashable value, which an int is. So we'll say selection $, selection, like that. And then with our tab here, we can include a value. And we'll pass 0 as its value. And then for the second one, it'll have a value of 1, like that. And now when we run our code, it still works as intended. It's just now we have a state variable that is bound to a value associated with the selected tab. So when all contacts is selected, it's 0. When favorites is selected, it's 1. All right. Now, if we wanted to use the tabItem modifier way of doing it, we would do something like, we would have a all contact screen, pass it contacts. We'll have a tag with 0. And we'll have a tabItem with a label of all contacts with a system image of person. And then we'll have favorite contact screen, again passing it the contacts with a tag of 1, and a tabItem modifier with a label of favorites and a system image of star. Save that, run it. We get ourselves a successful build. And it works perfectly fine, exactly as we intended. But this time, we still have our state variable that's storing which tab is selected by its tag. Now, the thing about using this way with a tag instead of a value for the tab that we looked at previously is we can use any value that conforms to hashable. So if you want a string, you could do that. A double, you could do that. An integer, you could do that. With the tab, like with the new TabView, the value parameter is only an integer, so it has to be an integer. But the selection binding parameter is a binding to any kind of hashable value. All right, so that pretty much does it for this video on the TabView in SwiftUI. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.